Hello, YouTube. So I just wanted to revive this channel so that I could basically talk more about the ITF exam and just document the process um, for studying for it. So the exam basically goes over um, like basic computer parts and networking and security. And so basically, the goal is to pass the exam and get in some sort of role associated with that. And then in the future, take like any other exams on top of that, like the security or the A plus. Um, so yeah, I did like some exams before, some practice exams, and they went pretty well. I got like a 60 and a 100 just in the beginning, which is okay because it shows I have some technical knowledge, just like general knowledge of computers. But I think anyone honestly can get the same score because they ask like pretty easy questions, like what is RAM, what is CPU, like what is the display, just stuff like that. Um, and I'm taking the ITF plus only because I started with the A plus, and there was a lot of content there that was very new to me. So I just wanted to go back and start with like a more basic foundational exam, um, and then work my way back up to that. So if you are also taking the ITF plus for just like the IT exam, you can follow along. I'll just be documenting like how I study for it and everything. Um, I'm using the Comptia ITF objective guide. You can find it online. Just search up like Comptia ITF, and they have like a exam objective for the 061 exam. Um, and they have a bunch of stuff, honestly. Let me see if I could bring up yeah, the exam objectives. I was like looking at it earlier. They have 6 different domains. They have IT concepts and terminology, infrastructure, application and software, software development, database fundamentals, and security. Um, I'm starting with the IT concept and terminology. And before like looked at the objectives, I just took like a small practice exam, and based on the questions I got wrong and the terms I didn't understand, I created like a small kind of like cheat sheet explaining like what different terms were, for example, like a network switch or a router. Um, and then I just created notes based on that to try to just organize everything. Um, Let me see if I can pull up the, the actual notes. So I can just show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So this is the ITF plus notes for the first exam. See, I kind of just wrote down all the terms I didn't understand, and then wrote down the questions I got wrong, and then organized the terms based on categories I thought made sense. And the categories kind of align with the exam objectives, so that means I wasn't too far off with organizing them properly. Um, but there are a lot more subsections in the exam objectives than I thought there would be. And then, yeah, just like organize the words depending on the topics. And yeah, based on this, I created like a small study guide with ChatGPT. Um, like, yeah, Google Docs. Excuse me, I'm sick right now, so excuse me if I'm just sneezing and sniffling. Okay, so this is the study guide I created based on the terms and just like a small explanation of how they worked, separated by the categories I was talking about before. And basically, I started with the connectivity section, and I basically went over how devices work together to provide internet. That was the first thing I did before I ultimately said, hey, hold on, let me just look at the objectives, like I was saying, and then I could better plan from there, which was a better idea. But from that, I just created a short, um, I guess, mini lesson note that I could just see and kind of like go over to myself just so I can review really quickly, and I can also showcase that here. So ISP stands for the Internet Service Provider, and the Internet Service Provider provides internet via cables or satellite, and it basically sends signals through the those mediums. Satellite is like a dish kind of looking thing. You'll probably see them like outside your building if your building uses it, or on farms, you'll probably see like a satellite so that it can connect to the internet. But most likely, if you're living in like the city or more populated areas, you'll see like cables. And there's three different types of cables you could have to connect to the internet. You can have the coaxial cable, and that's just like cable internet. So like optimum, things like that. We also have fiber optic, which is a cable that has many pieces of glass that reflects light very fast. So fiber optic internet is extremely fast. And you also have DSL phone line. So this uses the telephone lines in order to provide internet service. And the internet service provider, the ISP, sends these signals for the internet through either cables or satellite and connects it to your modem. And your modem is a kind of like a box. You'll probably see it like maybe in your living room or wherever you guys have your modem or the cables connecting to it. And it what it does is it modulates and demodulates the signals. Excuse me, let me just clean my nose real quick. It modulates and demodulates the signals so that it can transfer it from um, the signals the internet service provider is sending into an Ethernet compatible signal that your router can understand. I don't know exact details of it. This is just kind of like a basic outline, but your modem receives those signals, and you're now connected to the internet. So if you have internet service, most likely you're receiving, internet service from your modem by the internet service provider via cables or satellite. Um, and you connect your router, which is going to manage your internet activity. It's going to assign IP addresses, and it can also have like a firewall for your internet to provide better security in your network. Um, and what it's going to do, you connect that to the LAN port, which is the local area network port of your modem, to your wide area network port of the router. And that's because you want to be um, delivering signals and receiving signals to the router, because the router is going to then give those signals, internet signals, to the different devices that connect to the network. Um, and the reason why you want to have a router is because the router is managing and actually assigning IP addresses that allow devices to communicate with uh, the modem and then the internet service provider. So without the router, you're not going to be, you can still have internet service, but you basically can't use it because the router is what's managing um, everything. And you can have two different routers. You have like wireless and wired. Wired routers have Ethernet ports where you can connect Ethernet cables to any other devices like P computers, for example. Um, and then nowadays with modern routers, you have wireless connectivity. So your router can also have Wi-Fi enabled. And what that does is it allows devices like mobile phones, tablets, maybe like TVs as well to connect to the internet wirelessly. And so that is what you can use to basically connect devices to the internet. Um, so yeah, that's the basic outline. You have the internet service provider providing internet via cables or satellite, and your modem receives those signals and translates them to your router so that your router manages those signals and communicates between devices so that you're able to connect to your devices. Um, this right here is a access point, and what access points are used for is to extend the range of your internet, and it can provide wired and wireless connectivity. So let's say you wanted to have more like wired connectivity in a separate room. You could have a, wireless access point that's connected to your main router and has, Ethernet cables connecting to like a PC or something like that. Or you could also just have like wired connections physically connecting the Ethernet port from the access point to the main router. Um, and so that's just like extending the uh, internet access. There's like different like frameworks and different designs. Like I was reading and it's talked about like mesh something. So there's specific ways you can like organize access points to provide more efficient internet connectivity. But yeah, that's just the basics. I'm going to do the um, what is it? I can't find it. It's more here. Yes. So I'm going to do the IT concepts and terminology next. And so what I'll do is basically go through every single subsection and then kind of just create like a small study guide, maybe like a small lesson as well, so that I can just like reinforce what I learned. Um, and yeah.